a man who had been long overweight used to stop at the donut shop on the way to work every day and pick up donuts, which he would mostly consume, but a few of which he would share with his coworkers. But he decided, it was time to lose some weight. And to help him in his discipline, he decided he would take a different route to work so that he would never have to pass in front of the donut shop anymore. And his coworkers were cheering him on in his efforts. One day, however, he had to do an errand, which was going to mean he had to drive right in front of the donut shop. So he thought maybe this was a sign from God that he was supposed to eat a donut that day. So he said, God, if you want me to eat a donut today, let there be an open parking spot right in front of the donut shop. Well, sure enough, right in front of the donut shop was an empty parking spot after only 8 trips around the block. Last year, Americans spent $46 billion on diet products, more than the gross national product of many countries, missing the fact that ultimately the key is this less than loved word, discipline. We'd rather someone gives us a tablet or a pill and says, eat whatever you want, as often as you want, as much of it as you want, and never have to change anything else about your life. Just write down this number. The myth that keeps all of this going is that we could be happy without discipline. And maybe for a number of us, the struggle is not diet or our weight, but each of us struggles with the question of discipline. Again, the myth is that we could be happy without discipline. The truth is, the path to happiness is itself discipline. Much of our culture would suggest, you want to be happy? You know what you need? You need more. More of whatever. More food, more pleasure, more fun, more vacation, more whatever. The church has always stood challenging this supposition. Instead of the idea that, which the culture says, that you can be happy without discipline, the church would say it is itself the path of discipline which will lead to happiness. This week, our nation celebrates independence. We celebrate our freedom, and my, how we're proud of our freedom. I would suggest that we are one of the most enslaved people ever. Oh, I know we have incredible freedoms. We have the ability to do things and consume things that most of the world would never even dream of. It's been studied and suggested that we who live in this demographic region, we have more goods at our disposal than 99% of the people, not just 99% of the people in the world, but 99% of the people who have ever lived in the world at any part of the planet. Oh, we have tremendous resources available to us. And yet, I suggest, in many ways, we are not free. We are enslaved by our bodies and our cravings, our thoughts and our feelings. And in today's second reading, St. Paul gives an urgent appeal for freedom. He says, you were called for freedom, my brothers and sisters. For freedom, Christ set you free, so stand firm in your freedom. Do not take upon yourself the yoke of slavery. And Jesus in today's gospel is calling us to freedom. He says, let go of anything that would keep you from moving forward in freedom. And so the question is, what enslaves you? What enslaves you? Even this week, I've talked to people who were enslaved by their inability to forgive themselves for some past indiscretion. They just can't move forward. Even this week, I've talked to people who were enslaved by their inability to forgive. They just are so bound up in their anger and hatred. Even this week, I've met people who are enslaved by their self-righteousness, so proud of themselves for how they live their religion, they don't even see the call to love that St. Paul says is at the heart of freedom. And how many of us are enslaved by our bodily desires, not even able to stand in freedom? And how many of us are enslaved by our fear of loneliness? I suggest that one of the greatest yearnings of the human heart is to love and to be loved. It's the deep underlying yearning underneath so many of the other cravings. But my sense is that we are so afraid of loneliness that we don't even know how to love. To love means, in some ways, I give you the precious gift of who I am, even as I meet the precious gift of who you are. But I don't know that we've even been able to be emptied enough to know who we are, that we might give ourselves away. When there is quiet, or we feel loneliness, we rush to fill it with sound. Or we quickly start calling people because we can't stand being alone. Or we fill it with some sort of sexual encounter. We try to ease the pain through alcohol. Or we go buy stuff. Or we get busy. Or we turn on music. All because we're afraid to sit in the solitude of who we are. And therefore we don't even know who we are. And therefore I suggest we're not free to love. Because what can you give when we don't even know who it is that we are? And we only know who we are, I believe, in saying no to some of those things that would keep us from meeting ourselves. And there's a gift in discipline. There's a gift sometimes in saying no to this urge, because in that, there's a certain self-possession that happens. There's a certain greater sense of who I am when I say no to that can be found in no other way. It doesn't come just through filling ourselves with more and more and more. There's something only when we say no to that we can meet the truth of who we are and therefore be freed to love. There's a wonderful story about a fairly well-off family who moved next to an Amish community. A group of men were watching this family taking one thing after another off of their moving van. Jaws opened as out came TVs, out came computers and DVD players, and on and on. And after a while, one of the Amish men, in an attempt to be neighborly, said, you know, if you ever need help with any of those things, just let me know, let us know. The man said, you could fix these things? The Amish man said, no, I couldn't fix them. But I could help you learn how to be happy without them. How free are you? How free am I? Are we free enough to say no to all that would keep us from being able to say a true yes? Well, hello, buddy. How are you? I'm hungry. You're hungry. Okay. So what? Feed me. Feed you. Okay. Well, Big Al, I'm thinking it's not necessarily bad for you to stay hungry for a little bit. Well, Big Al, let's think about last night, for example. You didn't really eat much dinner, but then you wanted a whole bunch of desserts, didn't you? Yeah. I think it's sometimes good to not eat dessert and to feel hungry a little bit. What do you think of that? Well, Big Al, see, sometimes we just fill ourselves with so much stuff and so much busyness, TV, yeah, that we never really meet who we really are inside. Scary. It's kind of a scary place at first, until it becomes a holy, safe place where we meet God. Whoa. Yeah, so Big Al, I think it's important sometimes to give away some stuff and be a little bit hungry and get quiet sometimes just so we can go inside. Cool. Go Blues. Maybe he's given up on the Cardinals. I don't know. Yeah. And boys and girls, you know what? The other day, a family told me that their children tithe their toys. What that means is they give some of their toys every year to others, even toys that they still use, and they make sure that their brothers and sisters get to use their favorite toys 1/10 of the time. And sometimes you tell it to people and they're like, are you kidding? But here's what happens. Sometimes if we give up a dessert or we share a toy or give away something for somebody else, we become more alive in here. And we meet God there.